Hi guys, and welcome to a new series of Monster Hunter that I wanted to go into, and that is to help a hunter. Now basically what Help a Hunter is going to be about is where I'm going to try and help new Monster Hunter players to understand the game and what they can expect from it. Things like what armor to get when fighting their new monsters and whatever, to what's the difference between raw and elemental damage, which everyone seems to kind of not understand, including me. So this is going to be a learning experience for new people, including me, and experienced players or whatever. I'll also be looking into in-depth stuff like damage formulas of weapons to, I don't know, whatever else I can think of. But that'll be until I can understand it and whatever, and as the series goes on. But first, for this episode, it's going to be looking into the basic things like what you're going to need to know before you head out on a quest and whatever. So, see you in the next part. Right, so, the first thing you're going to need to know is basically how to move. Now, if you played PSP games like me, you'd already probably understand that you move around with the thumbstick. Now, you just push that in any direction and your little character will walk there, as you can see mine's doing now. But to run, you press the R trigger, and look at the little guy's running. Look at him jolt around the screen. Now, this is the most important thing you can do in this game, is run. Now, you're gonna have to get used to doing this. Is running, basically. Everyone should know that, including experienced players. You should know you run a lot in this game. Right. So, basic controls in the town, let's see, you can talk to people like this by pressing the X button. You can cancel out stuff by pressing circle. You can also, let me just run over here to the house to explain more, you can press square to enter buildings and do other stuff. You can press triangle here to jump to a destination like the offline or online gathering hall, including training school, and when these unlock is the farm and whatever. Now, you're gonna have to, like, that's pretty simple, right? But it gets a bit more trickier when you get onto the field, and I'll see you on the field, guys. Hi guys, so we're on the field now, and basically some of the buttons change. You still run around with the thumbstick, but you're already running, so you kind of run a bit more faster when you press R. Now you'll notice the stamina bar drop, which is something you need to keep an eye on when you start this game, is when the stamina bar reaches to, you know, the lowest part, basically, you start to get tired. Now you'll start to run a bit slower, and if you let it drop all the way, something bad happens and you stand still for a couple of seconds. Now your hunter's like, there we go, he's getting tired, and there we go, he's fully tired. You'll still run a bit, but when you let go, you'll be very tired and stand still. Now you need to keep an eye on this when you're playing this game, because that can lead to a lot of trouble, which you could probably see in my latest part of Monster Hunter, my LP, which is around about 154, I believe, where my character runs in front of the monster and gets tired, and I get hit from it. So you need to keep an eye out for this, which is very important. Right, so some of the other functions that you need to know. X is now roll. You don't talk to things. You can also crouch when you're standing still, and you can get back out of that when you're standing still again. Circle is an attack move, which if I press triangle, which is to attack, which you use to unsheath your weapon and all that stuff. And circle is the secondary attack for most weapons. Square is to put away and is also to use an item. I haven't got items on me, so let's check the box. In order to get to the box, you use circle when your when your weapon is put away. So be very wary of that. You'll need to remember that later on. So let's get the items here, and let's look for an item to use. Right, let's use a ration. Right, so let's use square. As you can see there in the bottom right, you can see what item you're equipped with and how to use it, which is X. To look around is the directional button. Sorry. In order to get used to this, it takes a while, but there's a thing like what we players call the claw. Well, I call it the claw. Many people should be familiar with the claw, which is where, in order to do this, right, this takes a kind of a long time to get used to. Is you basically move around with the thumbstick, so you use your thumb for that. But in order to look right and left, you use your index finger on your left hand. Now, this basically gets a lot. Basically, you know, it gets a long while to get used to, but you'll get used to it in the end. To look up, to look down, you press down, of course, and to look up, you press up. But I would recommend it keeping it at around about this level. This is pretty. You usually start off at this, which is kind of sucky. I usually press down once, and you get a better view anyway. Anyway, that's it for basically more button info out on the field. The next couple of things I'll be looking into are the different attacks of weapons and what kind of weapons are and what they are and all that stuff. So I'll see you on the first weapon, guys. So guys, the first weapon we have here is the Greatsword. Now, the Greatsword is one of the slowest weapons in the game, but it's also one of the fastest. Now, if you can master this weapon, you can do a lot of damage. Now, first thing we need to look at is the sheer size. Let's get this thing out. This thing is huge, right? It's not called the Greatsword for nothing, right? So basically, while it's out, you walk really slow, so this is where it becomes really hard to use. You can still roll about and stuff, but that's, it's still really slow to move around. Right, so the attacks. So we press triangle here and we'll do a little slam to the ground. Now you can't chain this, you can't do multiple slams on the ground, you have to wait until it fully gets on the ground. But with the circle move, which is a little spin around, is pretty useful if you want to chain attacks, which if I press circle after I've slammed down and then triangle, you can do a little combo. Now, I wouldn't suggest doing combos with the Greatsword, since this is used for another reason. This is used for doing charge attacks. Now, what a charge attack is if you press and hold down triangle, you'll do a little charge. Now, this charge has 3 levels. You can have the first level, which is there. That's a lot more stronger than the normal hit, but still weak. Then we've got the second charge here, which is that one, which is a lot stronger than the first one, but not as powerful. And then we've got the third one, which automatically does it after you reach it, which is the most powerful. Now, you'll want to charge doing this a lot. You don't really want to kind of do attacks like this because it's kind of shit. Now, there's another move I forgot to mention with the Greatsword, sorry, which is triangle and circle together. If you press them at the exact same time, you'll do this little upward swing. That's very fun to do against other players because that will send them flying, but I wouldn't recommend doing it all the time. Just do it to your friends. It's kind of just a funny thing. You can also block, which is pressing the R button, which is very useful to block attacks, but will decrease your stamina, the sharpness, which I'll go into later. There's also another thing with the Greatsword, is where you hit. Now, this is kind of a little advanced, but I wouldn't worry about it the couple of times you use it. But the more you get used to the Greatsword, you'd want to know is that the most damage you'll do is if you slice the monster with the middle part of the weapon, which is probably, I can't really point it out, but it's the middle, right in the middle of the weapon. You'll do less if you get it on near the hilt and near the top of the weapon, and it's lagging. Well done. So that is another thing you need to know. So anyway, let's go on to the next weapon. So guys, right, we are now using the longsword, which is this beast. Now, this is kind of like the Greatsword, but not. It's still long, but it's not as huge. It's a very strong and fast weapon, but it's not that tricky to use, but to get used to it is quite tricky for me. It took me a while. Anyway, so let's look at the attacks. Right, so our first attack is triangle. Now you can chain this. If you press triangle again, you'll do another slam there. So that's basically like the Greatsword. The second attack, which is circle, which is a stab. Now you can chain triangle and circle by doing triangle twice. If I do that again, circle once, and then triangle, you can go into an infinite loop of just stabbing and all that stuff. Now let's move back a bit here. The second attack you can do is triangle and circle together, which does a little back hop. Now this is quite useful to do when you're against something and you need to move away fast. You can do a little combo, slice away and move away. Now that there is a move by using the R trigger. Now, in order to show that off properly, I have to get my spirit gauge up, which is in the top left, right underneath the sword there. So I'm going to fight some popos now and hopefully get that up for you guys. So let's do the little combo I showed you guys. Let's get this up. There we go. Right, let's actually kill him as well. And slice away so we can get away from him. Right, so now our spirit gauge is up. We also get an attack boost, which is nice. Now, with the spirit gauge all the way up, we can now have access to our little sword dance, or the devil dance like I like to call it. So if I keep on pressing the R trigger now that it's fully up, I'll do a little dance here, which is pretty useful. Now, what I've seen most people play this game and they usually just tend to use it like that, but I use it in a different way. I do a little combo with it. If you press R once like that and then press triangle, you can do a little sub combo within the combo. So it's pretty handy to do, and it's also adds some more spirit to your spirit gauge, which is pretty handy to have. So you can keep on dishing out the combos as well as, you know, doing some extra damage. So that's pretty useful idea to have. You can't block, like I said, because you're using the R button to do the little dance like that. You can also roll out of moves, so you can do an attack and roll. This is useful for other weapons as well, so if you're doing a combo you can always roll out and then run away. That's one easy technique that you can use, is just like, oh shit, I'm about to get hit here, I can just attack once and then roll out the way kind of thing. So you need to be careful for that. So guys, we're back and we're using the hammer now, which is this beast. Now, I personally prefer to use the hammer, but it's up to everyone's opinion. But anyway, let's look at this guy. So this guy is pretty powerful. He doesn't have that much mobility as other weapons, but is decent. You can have him out and still run. And he's pretty much one of the powerful weapons in the game, alongside the greatsword. But like I said, the greatsword is a lot more powerful. I think anyway. Now, the attacks with this is triangle, which is a basic thing which you'll always be using with the hammer, which is triangle, which is basically that, and circle, which is that. You will not use the circle as much. I never tend to use the circle, but the combo goes is you just keep on pressing triangle. Now that is the most decent combo. Like, that's all you'll ever do. Now the other thing with the hammer is you can't, by the way, you also can't do a triangle and circle together. There is nothing. You cannot do anything, right? But I will go into something, which I neglected to say on the greatsword and all that stuff. But you can probably do it there as well. You can, if you press the R button, you'll do a charge. So this is basically like the greatsword, but as you can see, you can still run around with it, but your stamina will drop. Now, when you reach the bottom of your stamina, you'll unleash the attack, but you can have other chances to do this as well. So if we charge it up again, once it's full, you can let it go. Now with this charge, there's a couple of other moves as well. If I charge up a bit halfway and then let go whilst moving, you'll do a little forward attack kind of thing. You'll use this often, sometimes, not as much as the Grand Slam, like I like to call it. But there's also one other move. If you charge it up all the way and move whilst you let go, you'll do a little spin. And sometimes if you can press triangle, that's failed there, but whatever. If you press triangle, you'll tend to do like a little golf swing. Let's see if I can try that for you guys. There we go. And that's a little golf swing. That is pretty powerful. So that's pretty good. Whilst the weapon is away, you can press triangle, circle and R button together, and that will automatically get you into a charge. Now this is pretty helpful when you're trying to run away from a monster and then he does something stupid, so you can run up to him and just automatically get into a charge, which helps. But you can also do that with the greatsword, where you're running along and you can just hold and press triangle and you'll do like a little kind of hit. You can also do that little upward swing by running and pressing triangle as well, which is that, which helps to get into a little combo. If I show you here, you kind of upcut and then you can't really do the combo, but it's there anyway. So that's it for the hammer, which isn't much, and we'll see you on the next weapon. Hi guys, and we're back with the hunting horn. Now the hunting horn is kind of like the same tree as hammer, but different. Now this is basically the same as a hunting horn, but like I said, different. you can press triangle to do this infinite amount of swings, which is like a kind of uppercuts. Now this is quite it's quite good actually against sometimes stationary monsters. You can just keep on pressing triangle and it does quite a lot of damage. You can also press circle to do a little poke, which is kind of useless, so I never suggest using it. You can also press triangle and circle together to do this little slam, just like the hammer. Now, the thing that's unique about the hunting horn and sets it a different angle from the hammer is the song mode, which is basically you press R once and you'll enter this little song mode. Now, it gives you buffs. Now, that is pretty useful to have. In order to play different notes, you can play, let's say, that's basically the same one. If I press triangle here, you'll do attacks whilst in this mode, so it's pretty... I wouldn't suggest using the attacks, because they are kind of useless. So I suggest using this before you fight something. And these basically changes the notes. To get the next note is triangle and circle there. And oh wow, I got wind reduce. Right, so that's basically kind of useless, whatever. But anyway, so basically the notes are circle, which gets you the first note. Let's move away from the house. Triangle, which gives you the second note. And triangle and circle together, which gives you the third and final note. Now, in order to get out of this, all you got to do is press triangle and you're back out. Now, this is very useful. As you can see, I'm a lot faster now because of the speed increase that it gave me at the beginning. I'll go on to talking about what different songs you can do with the hunting horn in a later video, but for now I'm just teaching you how to basically use the weapons and what they are. So basically this is kind of like a buffer weapon. I wouldn't recommend using it offline, but I do for the LP because I can. And I like using it. It's not a bad weapon, but people tend to see it as like a unique weapon that you should only use online, but I wouldn't listen to them, and I would try and use it offline to get at least decent with it. So anyway, let's look at the next weapon. Hi, and we are back with the lance. Now, the lance is one of the most, I think, powerfulest weapons in the game if you utilize it right. Now, most people tend to use the lance, actually. I've seen a lot of lance users around lately, and basically because I understand why. Right, so the first attack is triangle. Basically, you press triangle once, and you'll do a forward thrust. You can press this 3 times maximum, and you'll do a free thrust attack. Now, let's hop back a bit. In this mode, you can't roll. With the lance, you can't roll away, but you back hop, which can tend to be very useful at times. You can also block. This is one of the weapons that you'll tend to be blocking with a lot. The second attack, which is circle, which is doing at an angle, which is very useful for hitting high monsters and very tall monsters. The second one, which is triangle and circle, which is a little dash, which is very stupid kind of thing. I never tend to use this at all. It's kind of rubbish. And if I press block, you can still hit with it and stuff. So it's pretty all around. It's a really decent weapon. There's nothing too confusing about it. But if you can get pretty good with this weapon, you can pretty much like be very powerful. Basically, it's one of the weapons where it doesn't do a lot of damage. But if you can get a combo like this going, all you got to do is do 3 attacks and then press X to back hop. Now that's basically your combo sorted. That's all you got to do. All you've got to do against monsters. Or if they're on the floor, you can just hit them like that. It's a very slow weapon, but if you can get like in that situation where you're underneath a monster or you're behind it, feel free to just spam the shit out of triangle or circle, whichever one you want to do. Also, I forgot to mention, you can also kind of change it up a bit. You don't have to keep on pressing triangle to do all 3 thrusts. you could basically press triangle, circle, triangle, or circle, circle, triangle, or circle, triangle, circle. Whatever you want to do, you can only do 3. Right, so we are back with the gun lance. Now, the gun lance is just like the lance, apart from it being a gun as well. Now, this may seem quite entertaining at first. I found it entertaining when I first used the gun lance, but believe me, it is quite tricky to use. Like, I'd never hardly used the gun lance, and you know, everyone should know by now I hate the gun lance, and if you're new, you'll probably end up learning soon enough that I hate the gun lance. But anyway, let's look at the attacks. Now, first is the triangle. Basically, is like the 3 forward thrusts. In order to do the circle move, I have to show you something first. Now, the circle move is to use the gun. In order to use the gun, you have to reload it. Now, by reloading, you have to press the R button, which is block, which you should already know this by now because of the lance and most other weapons. But in order to reload, you use R and circle at the same time, which then reloads the gun lance. Now you have, you know, choice of using the gun. Now, this gun lance in particular has 5 shots. I don't know if this changes. I'll probably have to get back to you on that when I do an advanced tutorial on gun lances. But that's how you use it. You can do a kind of a combo move where you do 3 thrusts and press circle to do a finishing blow. The third option to attack is triangle and circle at the same time, which does like a little scoop up into the air, which is pretty handy. I'm not sure. Let's try this out. But yep, there you go. In order to hit diagonally with the weapon, you have to press triangle and circle at the same time, and then immediately press triangle to do a diagonal strike. Now, with this weapon, this has a great feature with it, which is called the Wyvern Fire, or the Wyvern Blast, whichever you want to call it. Now, in order to do this move, you have to press R, triangle and circle together, which does this. Now, this shoots, which is very, very good, but also reduces your sharpness. Now, this blast changes depending on which weapon, and the weapon will tell you what kind of Wyvern Fire it has. So, that's good to know. Now, that's it for the gun lances, if I can recall. So let's look on to the next weapon. Right, so we are back with the sword and shield. Now, this is one of the weapons you start off with. You are immediately equipped with this weapon, so you should be familiar with it. But you can also change the weapons at your house, which I'll show you at the end of showing you all the weapons. Now, the sword and shield is one of the fastest weapons in the game. One of the fastest, I should say. And it has a multiple array of different combos and abilities. First, if I press triangle, I'll unsheath. Now, pressing triangle alone will do a little combo, which should is pretty decent. Now, circle does a spinning attack, just like the greatsword spinning attack, but a lot faster. If I unsheath my, if I sheath my weapon, if I run and press triangle at the same time, I'll do a leaping slice. Now that is a good way to start off your combo. I'll show you again. Press triangle once. There we go. Now that is all I'm doing is pressing triangle. All I do is run and leap and just press triangle all the way. Basically, that's the combo you need to know. Now, in order to do that move, whilst it being out, you press triangle and circle together, which automatically does the little leap thing, which is very, very useful. Now, the other thing about this weapon, it can block since it has a shield, but it can't block most things like a lance, a gun lance, or a greatsword can do. But this thing has a great feature. Now I have some items here with me. If I keep on pressing the R button and then press square, I can automatically use the item whilst the weapon being out. Now this is very useful and very, very helpful to use, to be honest. When you're out on the field and like say, oh shit, I'm like dying, I need to like run for cover, but I don't have enough time to put my weapon away, I can just run over, block, and just take the potion, simple as, and then continue fighting. Like, it's very, very useful, so you cannot forget that. Now, let's look on to the next weapon, shall we? Next, we have the dual swords. Now, dual swords are the fastest weapon in this game. They are ridiculous. They are pretty fast. Now, you can deal a lot of damage with these weapons, but Bear in mind, more hits means more stamina loss. Stamina? Pardon me. Sharpness. Very professional. Anyway, the attacks are triangle, which performs a little combo here, which is basically just a standalone combo. Circle, which does a spin. Now, I don't know if you can... Nope, you can just press it once and you'll revert back to where you're standing. Now, that is triangle and circle, which is also the same move as if you're running and pressing triangle. So you have quick access to doing that, and that opens up the combo, which basically is, if I start from here, I'll say it as I'm doing it, triangle and circle, and just keep on pressing triangle. And that's basically a combo for you. Now, and you could probably end up, hang on, let's see if this works. Let's try this out. Let's try out the combo. And you can, nope, you can't end up by pressing circle, so that's out the question. Anyway, with this mode, we have the demon mode, which I like to call it, which is if we press R, we'll enter this demon mode. Now, this unlocks different moves for your character, as well as increased attack, if I believe so. This also decreases your stamina, so you need to watch out for this. This is one of the weapons where you'll need to use an item where it will stop your stamina from lowering. Now, I'll look into this later for you guys. I wouldn't bother about it yet if you're starting out, but I'll go into that later on when I go into an advanced tutorial on this weapon later on in the series. Now, let's look at the different moves you get with the demon mode on. Now, if we press triangle, we'll do the same dance, but it's a lot more powerful. If we press circle, we'll do a double spin. Now that's very useful for hitting high up enemies. We also have a new move which is called the demon dance. Like I like to call it the demon dance. I don't know if it's actually called that, but it's basically what I like to call it anyway. We press R and triangle and circle at the same time. Here we go. We'll do a little demon dance. Now that is just basically one button push. That's all I'm doing is basically triangle and circle together, and you'll do that little move basically. So see that again. There we go. That is the demon dance. Now that is pretty powerful. I like using that a lot. So basically that is the dual swords, one of the fastest weapons in the game, one of the most powerful if you can use it right, and pretty much a damage dealer. It's pretty useful. It's very tricky to use at the start, but if you can get used to them, they're pretty good. Anyway, let's look onto the range weapons now, shall we? Here we have the light bowgun, which is one of two bowgun weapons in the game. Right, so let's get this out. In order to use this weapon, we have to reload it, which is, I believe... Nope, not that button. See, even I get confused, which is triangle. There we go. I was thinking it was circle. Right, so in order to reload this weapon, you have to press triangle before you can do anything else. Now, in order to shoot, if we look this way and get a good, decent view, press triangle and we'll do a little shot, which is basically there. Now, in order to use this weapon, I do have to say you have to buy ammo from the merchant at this store, which I'll show you before I start. Well, actually, no. I'll show you that in a... no, I'll show you that later on. To reload again, we'll reload that. Also, we can aim with this weapon. If we press R once, we go into a little kind of first-person mode, which is pretty useful for when we're firing. We can fire in that different direction and all that stuff. We can also hold down R, which goes into a little over-the-shoulder view. You can still move around, and you can also aim like this. But there you go, and that's basically it. And you can hit with triangle and circle, which is basically useless, and I wouldn't suggest using it anyway. So guys, let's look at the heavy bowgun next. Right, here we have the heavy bowgun. It's basically like the low light bowgun, but heavy. Basically, you walk around a lot slower than you do with the light bowgun. You also fire slower, and you also reload slower, but it's a lot more powerful. As you can see, we're doing all the same things. You press R to... you know, get into this mode, you press it once, get into this. So basically, it's just like a light bowgun, but a lot more stronger and slower. You can get decent damage with this weapon, believe it or not. It's very powerful, and that's all I have to say, really. It's basically like the light bowgun, but heavy and slower, and a lot more powerful. So, if you want to be a bowgun user, pick whichever bowgun you find most suitable. It's up to you. Preference is preference, and it's up to you which one you like. So, without further ado, let's look at the last ranged weapon in Monster Hunter. And here it is, which is the bow. Now, the bow has infinite ammo, but it does have a thing called coatings, which I'll go into a later video, along with the different shots for the light and heavy bowgun. Now, with the bow, we press triangle to get it out. Basically, all you gotta do is press triangle to fire. Simple as. And circle to slice with an arrow, which is kind of useless, don't ever use it. But with the bow, you don't just want to tap triangle. Well, you kind of do sometimes. When you press triangle, you lose a bit of stamina. But if you hold down triangle, you'll start to charge up an attack. Now, these attacks differ. As you can see, when I charge it up, it has two phases. First phase and second phase. Now, these shots differ between bow. As you can see, I'm firing 2 there. Fire 1 there. Now, this is a bit advanced, but you guys can handle it. If we go along the details, rapid. Really? Oh, okay. Now, this bow, the charge attacks are rapid level 1, rapid level 1, and rapid level 2. Now, rapid level 1 means it only fires 1, I'm guessing. Rapid level 2 is, I'm guessing, you only fire 2, as you can see there. Now, these shots differ from bows, so you should look out for that and pick a bowgun which suits you. They also have different coatings, which I'll go into in a different video from now, which is going to be in a later episode of Help Hunter, so look out for that. So, that's it for all the weapons. Let's go back to town and I'll sign this out. So guys, before I sign this episode out, I would like to say, if you do want to start using a light or heavy bowgun, I would like you to go to here first to buy your ammo, which is here. If you have your light or heavy bowgun equipped, that X will go away, and you can basically say you can use it, and depending on what bowgun you can use different shots. It ranges from normal shots level 2, pierce level 1, which pierces and goes through the enemy, pellet, which is basically like a shotgun move, crag, which is, I'm not quite sure actually, you're going to have to look into these because I can't remember off the top of my head. Flaming shots, basically fire, water shots, which do water, thunder, which is lightning, freeze, which is ice, and poison to poison, paralyze, which paralyzes, sleep, makes them fall asleep, and recovery S, which is to recover allies if you're playing online. These are the coatings for bow, which are power coatings, which increases the power, close range coatings, which increases the power close up, if I believe. Poison coatings, which make you inflict poison on the enemy. Paralyze, which paralyzes them. Sleep, which makes them fall asleep. Now, you'll want to check out which ones you can use with which bowgun or bow before you head out on a quest to properly optimize your chances of winning. So I'll look into that in an update video later on when I go into an advanced tutorial on these weapons as well as the other weapons. So guys, this is the first episode of Help Hunter. Hope you like it. There'll be more coming along. The second episode I can say now, which is going to be about the starting armor and what the little details mean. I'll go into that in the next episode, and hopefully you guys watch it and like it. If you have any more questions, put in the comments below, and most people should answer them, but if not, I will try and answer them as best as I can. Also, if you have any requests as what information you'd like to see in next videos, please put that in the comments as well, and I'll see if I can put that in the next video, and hopefully it'll help you guys out. Anyway, thank you for watching. Click the annotation in the top right for when the next video comes out. Also, subscribe to see more Monster Hunter related videos and more. Don't forget to check out my Twitter page, which is in the description below, and I'll see you next time, guys. See ya!